Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to one of my favorite series of videos that I do, that being the vampire book recommendations. This is a series where I talk about at least 5 different books in a particular category, discuss them, and recommend them to you. So on this dreary October day, I have decided to discuss vampire standalone novels. Now, in the vampire genre, there are plenty of series. Fantasy series, historical series, erotic series, etc. All about vampires, one character, or a huge group of them. Now, for these recommendations, they are completely standalones. You can pick up the one book and the story is completed in that one book. I made sure of it. They are not going to be any part of a future series. There may be a novella attached to one, but otherwise these are completely standalone and they are being recommended as such. That way, if you would just prefer to try a one-and-done vampire novel without having to get attached to all 37 characters or a character's romance for 10 books, these are the books for you. Now, here is my shirt that I'm wearing. Not really tied to it because this is one of the most franchised and one of the most popular characters in fiction ever, but otherwise, let's begin. The first vampire standalone novel that I wish to recommend today is The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. This was a debut novel published in 2005. This is a story about a daughter chasing down historical sources, guided by the journals of her father, who was seeking out the tomb of Dracula and whether or not all of it was real. Now, this novel is a dual perspective, with one point of view being her father in the 1950s trying to chase down the mystery with his companion Helen, and then the later perspective is his daughter reading these journals and following in his footsteps in the 1970s. I find this story to be an incredibly interesting premise. A lot of people have tied it to being like the Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. I haven't read that book yet, so I can't personally say that, but I really enjoyed that the mystery that they had to solve involved doing historical research, accurate historical research. That included getting stuck in the library, waiting on someone to give them a calling card, having to go into a specific room to read a source, not being able to take the book out, people chasing them in the library. All of that was really exciting stuff. This was my major in university. I was a history major, so it was really nice to go back and see all of the things that you would have had to do in order to chase down a primary source. The writing in this book is very good, especially the epistolary elements, that being the journal entries. I thought that the references and connections to Dracula were tastefully done. They weren't too heavy-handed, and a lot of it was tied to the real-life historical theories that Dracula was inspired by real people or not, and it was just a really excellent story in that aspect. Now, this book is marketed on being a big action adventure about being a big chase, but to me personally, the resolution was very anticlimactic. Like, after such a long tale about the chase, filled with a whole bunch of stakes, I just personally wasn't satisfied with the ending. Now, I still gave this book 4 stars, and I still heavily recommend it if you are into a action adventure tied to the historical connections to the fictional vampire Dracula. It is a really fun and really exciting Dracula standalone, so recommended. My next vampire standalone book recommendation is A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This book was originally published independently in 2021. It then blew up among book communities and then got its own official publishing. I don't like this cover as much as the first one. This story is a second-person perspective novel following the main character Constanta as she is turned into a vampire and develops a relationship with that vampire. It is abusive and deadly, and then she connects with his 2 other partners, and together they all plan to take him down because he treats them so poorly. I personally listened to the audiobook when I was reading this book for the first time, and I thought the narration was just beautiful. I thought the language in this book was just so lush and so dark, romantic, sexy, beautiful. I really, really liked it. It is just a wonderfully written book. It has a lot of great sentiment in it, and the depictions of abuse in a relationship aren't written to be too gratuitous. It is very realistic and very emotional and heartbreaking. It is yet another novel claiming to be a retelling of Dracula, but I personally did not read it that way. You are able to just read it simply as one powerful vampire man and his 3 vampire brides, and it does not have to be tied to Dracula. Apparently, the author referenced a bunch of Dracula in the novel, but the time period completely skips over any of the events of Dracula. So in my own personal headcanon, I choose not to believe that this is Dracula and his 3 brides. To me, this is an original cast of characters. This book is very short. It's under 300 pages, but it is just such a wonderful novel. I really, really enjoyed it. And I've heard a lot of criticisms about this novel solely based on the fact that it is second-person point of view. Get over yourself. This book is framed as the main character Constanta writing a letter to her vampire maker. So she is using you as him. The character you isn't you, the reader. Are you 12? You need to get over this. You are missing out on a lot of excellently written books just because you can't get over the fact that it says you, but I would never do that. I don't do that. Okay, escape from your reality and go into some fantasy and enjoy. This has a character that is portrayed as the you. It's not you. You're not making decisions. You're not abusing people. Anyway, mini rant over. I highly, highly recommend A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson, and I can't wait to reread this in the future. The next book that I would like to recommend is The Delicate Dependency by Michael Talbot. This book was originally published in 1982, but then fell out of print until 2015 with this edition. This book follows a Victorian scientist named John Gladstone. In his early childhood, he believed he had an encounter with an angel. And then later on in his life, when he is a scientist, he encounters this said angel again. But problems arise when his 2 daughters get the attention of this said beautiful creature. Obviously, this angel is actually in reality a vampire, and John gets wrapped up in their twisted and wild world, and he has to fight to protect both himself and his 2 daughters. Once again, I have to praise just how wonderful the writing is in this story. Wonderful prose and description. I always describe the prose in here as like butter. Smooth, easy, and very, very tasty. I really, really enjoy the character development, and the vampire world building and philosophy in this novel is just excellent. It reads like it was written in the Victorian era, but it is very easy to understand. My favorite kind of books are historical books where it feels like very much of the time period. I don't like a lot of modern anachronisms and stuff like that in these books, so it just reads like it is a Victorian novel, and it is so suspenseful, so twisted, so insane, and so interesting. I really, really like vampire novels like this that delve a bit more into the philosophical. I personally find this reads a lot like an Anne Rice novel. They are very different, obviously, but that is the same sort of genre. This book has just my highest recommendations. I highly, highly recommend this book, especially if you're an Anne Rice lover or you are looking to be an Anne Rice lover and you don't want to delve into 15 genre-hopping books of craziness. Try this one first, and if you really, really are into it, then I would highly recommend you jump immediately into Interview with the Vampire. So I highly recommend The Delicate Dependency by Michael Talbot. The next vampire standalone novel that I have to recommend is The Quick by Lauren Owen. This is another debut novel that was published in 2014. This is yet another novel that is set in the Victorian era. Can you tell that I sort of have a favorite type of vampire book? Anyway, this is about a woman who finds out that her brother was brutally murdered, and then she seeks out his killer and finds out that there is a world of vampires, a secret organization of vampires, as well as a secret organization of vampire killers. It's funny, as I am filming this video, I found out that there is a pattern within vampire standalone novels where the vampire novel is based around a big chase, discovering answers, and this is one of those books. To me, the premise of the novel was a little bit more interesting than it is to actively read it. I gave this book a bit of a lower rating because it is a pretty long book and the pace tends to slow down after the inciting incident. I also find the book slows down a bit more once we get to the main character Charlotte's perspective, as opposed to the brother who is having ties to the vampire world and gets murdered as a result. Her point of view in finding out about the vampires was a little bit less exciting than the idea of her brother joining this vampire society and getting murdered as a result, because all of that sounded way more interesting than what takes place in the novel. But apparently, in the marketing of this novel, the vampire reveal was a huge twist. It wasn't involved in the marketing, so maybe that has a better impact than when you go into this novel knowing that the twist is going to be vampires. While this isn't my favorite in this set of recommendations, I say you give it a shot, especially if you really like Dickensian novels. This book was heavily marketed as being a Victorian Dickensian novel without revealing that it was secretly a vampire twist. So if you are into novels like that, I highly recommend it. I think it was very, very good in that aspect. I just think I was personally too spoiled by the premise and knowing the twist. But check out this novel if you're interested. And the final vampire standalone novel I have to recommend to you today is a little bit different than all of the novels that I have just previously discussed, and that is The Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Canas. It was the author's sophomore novel and was published just last year in the year 2023. The novel takes place in 1840s Mexico, and the two main characters deal with family expectations, their home, and their strained relationship, as well as the shocking arrival of giant vampiric monsters, so they have to protect their land, their family, and each other from these arriving beasts. I was interested in the novel based on that premise alone. I think that is such a unique location, such a unique time period, and such a unique premise to build a story on, and I was not disappointed. I thought that this novel was excellently done. It reads a little bit more new adult, a little bit more modern, even though it takes place in 1840s Mexico, but it does such a great job with the world building. I understand the family dynamics and the rivalry there is between two families, as well as their fight to protect their ranch from the upcoming, colonization that was taking place at the time period. I'm normally not impressed by dual perspective between the male protagonist and the female protagonist, but both of these characters had such excellent character development. The male character is depicted as sort of a bad man, and I really, really like that. He does things in order to get money and to live, and I like all the choices he makes, and I like his relationship with the female protagonist, who in herself is very brave, very strong, and very headstrong. She insists that the male character has betrayed her, and she does not really forgive him until his actions prove it to her in the novel. I normally don't like the "you left me" or "you lied" trope, but this one was done very effectively, and while I was a bit annoyed with it at the start, it quickly was resolved in a proper and realistic way. A lot of this book is based on their rekindling of their relationship, and I thought that it was very, very well done. I thought that it was actually a bit heated and charged, despite the fact that it's not too much of an explicit novel, but I was really, really into their relationship, and I was looking forward to seeing those two kids resolve everything and fight off these vampires. Now, the vampires themselves aren't really characters in this book. They're more the monster to fight, which is not something I normally gravitate towards but I thought that this was really, really well done. I really, really liked this novel. I highly, highly recommend it. It was just an excellent and fun adventure set in 1840s Mexico and contained a lot of very interesting vampire creature world building and a very good relationship between its main characters. So that's it. That's all of my vampire recommendations for this video. Now, I know what you're thinking. This can't possibly be every single vampire standalone novel. And you're right. It isn't. I have so many more that I could recommend to you. Huh. If only I had a series where I talked about that. Maybe I'll be doing this again very, very soon and recommending even more vampire standalone novels for you to sink your fangs into. I am just so excited about this topic, and I love talking about vampire novels with you guys. But I'm not an expert. Was there another vampire standalone novel that I missed? You have to let me know. Please let me know in the comments if there are any vampire standalone novels, any vampire novels in general that you really think that I should check out. I really want to seek out more. I haven't found a lot of vampire novels in recent years, and it's been driving me crazy. I need to find more. So please help me out by suggesting any in the comments down below. I really hope that you check out some of these really fun and exciting action-filled, romance-filled novels and enjoyed them as much as I did. So thank you so much for watching. Please stay tuned as I continue to make more of these videos in this series, as well as videos on my channel that cover a wide variety of topics, including books, journaling, collecting, Batman, etc. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're interested for more. Thank you so much for watching. Happy spooky season, happy Halloween, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.